Well, it took 15 ballots and 4 days of drama for Kevin McCarthy to secure the Speaker's gavel back in January. And 9 months later, he risked becoming the shortest tenured Speaker since the 1930s. Florida Republican Matt Gaetz says he is planning to force a vote to remove McCarthy as Speaker. Correspondent Joe Khalil is live in Washington. And Joe, where do things stand right now?
Well, it's hard to tell at this point, Kelly. The future for Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House is uncertain at this moment. It's not clear. Look, he does have a lot of support among Republicans. He's got a lot of allies. But is it enough to continue to push back on this effort that Matt Gaetz is making to remove Kevin McCarthy from Speaker? That's not entirely clear. Kevin McCarthy may have a math problem there, that he may have to rely on Democrats to try to save him if, in fact, this vote does happen. And Matt Gaetz is promising he's going to force that vote. At the same time, it's not exactly clear that Matt Gaetz has enough votes within the Republican Party to follow through on his gambit successfully and remove Kevin McCarthy. It would need to rely on Democrats the same way. There would be Democratic votes to do either one of those scenarios. And so there's a lot that's up in the air right now. What we know from Matt Gaetz is he says this week he is going to follow through on his motion to vacate, as it's called. And he addressed reporters just a little while ago today. He also said that even if he's not successful the first time, he's going to continue to make this attempt over and over. Here's a little bit more of what he said to reporters this morning.
We have a lot of folks in Congress who I think would be very capable to serve as Speaker. We need to rebuild trust. And so I think we need someone who can connect the most conservative features of our conference to the most moderate features of our conference. And I understand that. I'm not running for Speaker. I understand that it might not be someone who agrees with me on every position, but it is awkward to talk about names until we understand how Mr. Scalise comes out of his treatment for blood cancer. I am not the type of person that just says you blow by somebody because they're getting a medical treatment.
So, look, Gaetz tried to make the point today that this is not personal between he and Kevin McCarthy. It's no secret these men do have a bit of a history. They do not like each other. There is some personal animus there between the two. McCarthy, for his part, says, look, if you want to try to remove me from being Speaker, bring it on. He has been saying that consistently, projecting confidence that he is ultimately going to be able to have enough votes to beat this. But how that's done, again, is the uncertain part. Now, look, if Kevin McCarthy does have to rely on Democratic votes in order to save his gavel, what does that look like? What are Democrats going to get, and what is McCarthy going to have to concede to them? That is the big question today. I've been speaking with a number of my Democratic sources today. Many of them have brought up the idea of policy things like more money for Ukraine. We've also heard a number of people tell us about power sharing agreements. Essentially what that means is Republicans now, because they have a majority in the House, every committee is dominated by Republicans. They have more members. Could that change? Could they come to some kind of agreement where Democrats have more power and authority on those committees? That seems like a stretch and maybe unlikely, but at the same time, Democrats are going to have a lot of leverage if, in fact, they decide that they're going to be the ones to step in and save McCarthy from losing his gavel. So a lot that remains to be seen, Kelly, and we're going to continue to try to answer some of those questions. What we know in terms of timeline is Gaetz hasn't committed to doing this any specific day. He does say it's going to happen this week.
All right, a lot to be determined there. Joe Khalil, thank you, as always.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.